I'm absolutely appalled by some of the facts you put out there, Greg. This is shocking. Now, this revolt against Putin by the private army that he's actually been using for years to do his dirty work in Syria and Africa and in the Ukraine when they first took over the Crimea. This revolt by this private army called the Wagner Group, and the fact that Putin seems to have fled Moscow in panic as they got to within 200 kilometres of his capital, doesn't it make former President Donald Trump now seem a fool for suggesting just 3 weeks ago the US shouldn't be supporting Ukraine so much, shouldn't be giving it that much aid, that the war's at a stalemate, that he wouldn't even say he wanted Ukraine to win. Listen to this rubbish.
And it's an important question, so important, because we're giving away so much equipment. We don't have ammunition for ourselves.
Would you give Ukraine weapons and funding if you were elected?
I would sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in 1 day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in 1 day?
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely over.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing.
Greg, surely Trump cannot now say the US should cut aid to Ukraine. It looked like it was bailing out a dictator and a war criminal who's now in imminent danger, far from looking strong. It looks in danger of being deposed by his own people.
Well, you're absolutely right, Andrew. I mean, that was a grotesque performance by Trump. No one today looks a bigger idiot than those figures on the far right of Western politics who thought Putin was somehow or other a defender of Western civilization and a natural ally of us and the United States and of the West generally. Putin is a Stalinist dictator, an unreconstructed communist who runs a Stalinist repressive system at home and invades his neighbours regardless of international law or international borders. Now, the most senior figure who has given expression to the pro-Trump nonsense in Western politics has been Trump himself. I absolutely get it. The Russian collusion stuff was all lies. That was a complete hoax. Trump was completely innocent. But the things Trump says about Putin and about Ukraine are grotesque. And Trump wouldn't even condemn Putin's invasion. He wouldn't agree to support Ukraine. Putin is a wild, erratic dictator who makes war, who has no sense of his own army's inabilities, who has no sense of what his allies are going to do, who creates figures like Prigozhin. Prigozhin was a 9-year jailbird and hot dog salesman until Putin transformed him into a wealthy oligarch and licensed him to run a vicious private army, which has been one of the most brutal military forces we've seen in the last 100 years. And then Prigozhin turned around and wanted to bite Putin. But Putin created all this. And there are people in our polity who think Putin is our ally, and they're partly influenced in that madness by Trump himself.
And don't forget, Russia's such a basket case. It's got a second so-called private, or almost like a private army, the Chechen army, are also running riot. Who knows what they might do. Greg, Sheridan, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate that.